Hi, it's Steve. Today we'd like to show you how to change the tub to pump gasket on your dishwasher. It's a really easy repair. Let me show you how we do it. Now, to do this repair, we will need access to the bottom of the dishwasher. So we're going to need to pull it out of the cabinets. So first thing we need to do is disconnect the power. So locate the electrical panel, turn off the appropriate breaker or remove the appropriate fuse. Or if your dishwasher uses a corded plug, simply unplug it. Now next we'll need to turn off the inlet water supply and perhaps disconnect it if the fill hose is not long enough. And you'll also need to disconnect the drain. You can either disconnect the drain from below the dishwasher or at your outlet under the sink. Now once we've done that, we'll next need to release the two mounting tabs from the bottom of your cabinets. So remove those two screws and then we can pull the dishwasher out. Now before we lay the dishwasher on its back, we'll want to first of all remove all of the items that are in the dishwasher, both racks. We'll just set the rack aside. Next we'll remove the lower spray arm. We simply need to loosen that retaining nut on the top. Just turn it counterclockwise. Remove that. Lift the spray arm off. Make sure that the upper bearing is in place. And as well, remove the lower bearing. So then we'll just make sure that we pull that dishwasher out far enough. Make sure there's enough lead with your drain hose and fill hose. Then carefully tilt it onto its back. And we now have access to that part. Now with the dishwasher laying safely on its back, our next step will be to disconnect the drain hose, the check valve, and the wire harnesses from the pump. If your drain hose has a gear type clamp, we'll need to loosen that. Or if it's a spring type clamp, use your pliers, release that clamp and pull it back up onto the drain hose. You can then loosen it from the check valve. There may be some water in that hose, so have something to collect that. We'll then need to unthread that check valve from the pump. If you're unable to turn it by hand, use a pair of pliers and make sure we grasp it right down in this area. And just use enough force to loosen it. And then unthread it. Make sure the O-ring is intact, and then we'll just set that aside. Now next we'll need to remove the ground wire. So using either a flat blade screwdriver to pry that terminal off. We also have two terminals to our limit thermostat. We'll need to remove both of those. Be sure to grasp just the connector and not the wire. As well as the harness connector for the motor. Release the locking tabs on the side and disconnect that. On some models you may find a air tube that feeds the pressure switch located across the front. You want to disconnect that hose from the pressure switch. Now once we've done all that, we next need to loosen these locking tabs. We're simply going to pivot those so they lay flush up against the motor.
And once you've released those, you can just give that motor a little bit of a bump, see if we can break that bond between the gasket and the tub. You can try working that with both hands just to break it free. Now once we've got that loosened up a bit, we're now going to stand the dishwasher back up. Now with the disher standing back up, we've pushed it into the cabinet so that we can open the door without fear of it tilting over. We next will need to remove that pump outlet where it fits into the rear manifold. If you're able to, on certain models, you may be able to disconnect the manifold from the back and just push it out of the way. Most of these will require that you take the pump outlet off first. So simply remove the 8 number 15 Torx head screws. And lift up on that outlet, pull it out of the manifold. Now with that cover removed, we should then be able to disengage that manifold from the back wall of the dishwasher. And then just push it away. Now we should be able to grasp that pump and pull it up through that opening. And now we'll set that on a suitable surface and we can change out that gasket. Now with the pump inverted on a suitable surface, we'll next need to remove that old gasket. It's just a friction fit, so I'll simply peel it off of the pump body and remove it from the pump and discard it. Now with that gasket removed, we'll next want to clean this area so that we get a nice tight seal between the new gasket and the pump body. Now with that area cleared up, we'll next take our new gasket and we'll slide that down onto the pump body. If you wish, you can lubricate that gasket just with a bit of water or a light cleaning spray, nothing too heavy on that. And make sure that gasket is firmly seated all the way around. Now before we go to put that back in the tub, you'll also want to moisten the edge of that again with either a little bit of water or a light spray of a cleaner. Now we're ready to put it in the dishwasher. Now when reinstalling the pump, we want to position that so that the label is facing forward and this portion of the accumulator is directly towards the back. So just work that pump around, try to seat it firmly into the base of the tub. Then we're ready to put the manifold back into position. So if you've disconnected it from the back wall, we'll want to re-engage that. Now we're ready to put the pump outlet on. We first of all want to make sure that the gasket is still in place. If not, locate that and fit it down into this opening. Make sure there's no twist in that and it sits down in flush. Fit the new pump outlet into it. Line up the screw holes and stagger those screws as you put them in so that we don't cause that to bind. Now we're ready to put the lower spray arm back on. We'll begin by putting in the lower bearing. Set the spray arm on top of that. Slide in the upper bearing and the retaining nut and tighten that. Make sure it still turns freely. And now we're ready to put the lower rack in. So we simply need to push the rack back into place. We can close up the dishwasher, reconnect the power if you've disconnected it, and your repair is complete.